along on the show. The first paper would be for us to grab a copy of the Premium Times this morning, and it's leads with the headline NLC protest. Senate promises to resolve the demands of Nigerian workers in 7 days. 7 days make a week. That's what it says. And Mr. C, you would lead us in this paper, but let's quickly see just a brief intro here. And because the NLC, the leadership and the TUC, they made good their threats to go on that protest, called out their members, and of course, well-wishers were part of them on the streets of Abuja, and then they marched up to the Nigerian Senate yesterday. At some point, we thought they would not listen to them, but later on, I saw Ndume, former leader of the Senate, who came out to address them, and things went on. But I heard that there was a pulling and a shaking down of a certain gate somewhere. But Mr. C, dig into the story for us.
Okay, so thank you, Mas. So, the much promised NLC-led protest started yesterday, and in a number of locations spread across the country, they picketed those locations and demonstrated with placards reiterating the demands that, amongst other things, the fuel price should go back to 185 naira, the refinery should be fixed, and then the government should come out clearly with a revised national minimum wage. Now, the headline of this story is extremely misleading. It says the Senate promises to resolve. That is not correct. When you read the story, it is an individual senator, Senator Ali Ndume, who made that promise. Now, whether Senator Ali Ndume can bind the entire Senate remains to be seen, since it was not an official decision or collective decision of the Nigerian Senate. Now, discussions have been ongoing since the 19th of June. According to the labor leaders, both for the NLC and the TLC, much progress has not been made, and they fear the August 19 deadline will be missed. Now, I do not know what magic the NLC, the Senate, according to Senator Ndume, is planning to do in 7 days. I think that it's a bit misleading, and it's disrespectful to the Nigerian populace to clearly suggest something you know is almost unachievable. Now, part of the challenge is the minimum wage has to go up. Everybody is agreed on that, both on the government side, on the organized private sector side, even from the labor side. The sticky point remains: what is the proper amount that should be paid, that can be paid, not should be paid? So you have the proper amount that should be paid, which is the ideal. Then you then have reality, which is what can the national and subnational governments afford to pay in this present day and time. We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
And now we have a senator promising the universe and the galaxy and eternity to do what clearly cannot be done. Two, how is the Senate going to get us back to 185 naira as a fuel price? It's not going to happen.
Okay. Well, that's really you've really done justice to the story now. So I would cross over now. The next story also still stay with you, but let's go to Gbugbemi for this story. Okay, let's finish up with you now first, Mr. C, on this next story. Niger Republic, our neighbor on the other side, northwest part of the country. Niger Republic coup, that's coming from Business Day newspaper. ECOWAS defense chiefs meet in Nigeria, and they've resolved so far to do certain things. Among other things, what were those resolutions, Mr. C?
Okay, so thank you, Mas. Now this is very interesting. There's a coup in Niger. The Nigerian people appear to accept that coup, have strongly appear to have welcomed the coup. There have been no civil protests generally by the populace. We then have the ECOWAS, both from the political leadership and then the defense chiefs, saying that they're going to take all measures necessary to restore constitutional order. I'm sorry, what does that mean? There was a coup in Guinea in 2020 along with Mali. In 2021, it was Burkina Faso. In all three incidents, what did ECOWAS do? When the chap in Ivory Coast, Qatar, finish his 2 terms as stipulated under the Ivorian constitution, he illegally and unlawfully extended it, amended the constitution, and is running for a 3rd term. What exactly did ECOWAS do? Now, let's bring this home. ECOWAS has imposed a no-fly zone over Niger, closed all land borders, imposed financial sanctions, and interestingly, we have some Nigerians who, as of last week, were trapped in Niger because we were coming back from the Hajj, I believe.
The Max Air, yeah, I believe so.
I'm not sure if they've been able to return because I haven't seen any news that they've returned. Now, let's bring it home to Nigeria. How does this resonate here? We're still struggling, at least I'm still struggling with the after effects of the removal of the fuel subsidy and then the free float of the night. I don't know if Hamas is okay. It seems okay. But seriously, Nigerians generally are still dealing with this. NLC has started a mass protest, right? The president addressed us on Monday in an address that was extremely short or devoid of concrete details. Now he wants to plunge us into a war we do not need. And I say this very clearly, I say this with all seriousness. Why exactly are we concerned about what goes on in Niger? If the Nigerian people have accepted the coup d'etat, why are we insistent on forcing a sovereign nation with its sovereignty intact to accept the leader we prefer? No, that's not the way it works. Two,
Mr. C, I'm sorry if I may butt in here. First, internationally, global best practice tells you that there is a way to come to power, not by the barrel of the gun, but by the ballot. That's one. Two, this is Niger. We have, I'm saying, the region and the other parts of the world will look at Nigeria being a big brother to help, create some sense of order. It's like your neighbor's house being on fire and then you go to sleep and then you say, well, what's my business?
So let me bust that narrative for you. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea in Ukraine. No international troops were sent there. The Ukrainian people literally accepted it and they moved on with their lives. We do not deserve to play Big Brother. We have peculiar circumstances here right now that haven't been dealt with that do not justify a needless invasion into Niger. We must remember, Niger borders 6 Nigerian states. You have a military that has been stretched so thin. I have no confidence that if the Nigerian army were to go into a war today, they'll win.
Well, just before we move on to that,
I haven't finished.
story.
No, I haven't finished.
Okay, quickly. Okay.
Right, so the current president needs the approval of the National Assembly.
Yeah.
Then he needs to find funding. Where exactly is the money for this ill-advised proposed misadventure going to come from? 3, he needs to get equipment in place. Now, where are they going to set up bases? Because the Nigerian government and the people will not welcome them. Finally, in terms of our foreign policy, which I've consistently argued on this program is not clear, is not transparent, how does invading Niger and restoring a leader that seemingly is not liked by the majority of the Nigerian people, how does that fit in to our foreign policy?
Okay. Well, you, the listener, you have a choice to be part of the conversation this morning by sending us WhatsApp messages onto 0809-444-0981. The number, once again, 0809-444-0981. WhatsApp messages only. Gbugbemi, I come to you with this story. Let's see, this one, sort of still related, international diplomacy and issues and all of those we might find in this next story from the Premium Times. Nnamdi Kanu loses appeal against UK government in battle over detention. That's a bit of an intro here. Says the leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, has lost an appeal in legal action he filed against the United Kingdom government concerning his detention in Nigeria. Take it away.
Okay, so Nnamdi Kanu is both a Nigerian citizen and a British citizen. And after he was extradited to Nigeria, he assumed, of course, that the British government would come for him being a British citizen, but that was not the case. So he filed a case at British High Court sometime in 2021, where he sued the Secretary of State for the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. essentially trying to get them to make a firm statement on his detention and hopefully get him out of his quagmire. The court dismissed the case early this year, and then he subsequently filed an appeal at an appeal court, which was also unfruitful. So that court also affirmed the judgment of the initial court. Basically, the court said that they could not interfere in the matter because the matter is still in front of Nigeria's Supreme Court. So the assumption is they can't do anything until that Supreme Court issues a judgment. I'm sure this would be a blow to him, but looking at it, I'm not a lawyer, but looking at it in terms of what I consider to be legal, it would be quite right to assume that you should allow one court, a competent court of law, decide on a case before interfering. Also, because of the circumstances of his, should I use incarceration? Circumstances of his detention,
Picked up in Kenya, landed in Nigeria, and then the journey continues so far till date.
Exactly. And then understanding what his issues in Nigeria are, I can understand why the UK government may just want to stay back a bit and just, let's see how matters play out. I'm not sure if the British government would be willing to stake themselves for him. He's not necessarily material to their government, but let's see how things pan out.
Okay. Because you, in trying to help us understand the story, you had accepted that you are not a lawyer, and when we have a lawyer here, we'll just help him get us a bit perspective. I don't know if he has a brief with the case or any stint in UK law, but let's accept that at least for now he's a lawyer, at least, so he can shed light on that a bit for us. What's this portend for Nnamdi Kanu as a lawyer?
So, from a legal perspective, quickly glancing at the story,
yes,
it would appear that Nnamdi Kanu would have to await the conclusion of the judicial process ongoing in Nigeria. Now, the UK government has taken stance that even though you were illegally renditioned from Kenya to Nigeria, you are standing trial before a Nigerian court, of whom you also hold their passport, for offenses you are alleged to have committed. And as a law-abiding nation, they would offer you best consular support they can whilst you're in detention, whilst you're standing trial, but you have the duty to clear your name.
Okay.
Now, so the British government is being consistent, because anywhere a British national is accused of a crime outside Britain, they don't insist that the national be returned back to England. They support the national while he's undergoing that process. So it's in Nnamdi Kanu's best interest, whilst he still has his days in court, to present evidence which he believes will clearly refute the allegations leveled against him. So, and until that is done, the British government will just continue to stand back and watch proceedings.
See, honestly, the messages are piling up, so we must quickly now reach out to the messages as we ask them to send them on to 0809 4440981, WhatsApp messages only. Let's see, Yemi from Marina. Yemi says, good morning, guys. Please allow me to air my most sincere condolences to the doctor. Okay, we're going to get to that story, so Yemi, we might come back to read the story. Thank you so much. Let's get this next one in. Abbas says, it is obvious Mr. C doesn't like anything that comes from this president. We cannot continue to have this kind of analysis that supports illegality irrespective of whatever quarter it is coming from. I am surprised that someone will come on air to say that coup plotters can do whatever they like because that the people of the country said nothing. We'll get to Mr. C, you would have your right of reply, but that's a message coming from Abbas Oladekbo. Dima Puza from Surulere says, somebody said it will follow the footsteps of Buhari's government, but you are expecting a different mentality. I cannot laugh in Ukwani language. That's Idima Puza from Surulere. Next, we go on to the message from Austin from Anthony Village. He says, please, I hope the government of the day will not use the money derived from subsidy removal to go to war with Niger. Then after, we start hearing stories that the money was used to fight war, to probably institute democracy as we want to propagate. Let's see. Next one is there here. I'm trying to see what you mean by this one you sent in here, but let's move on to the next person. Keep on moving. Dan Okuda says, "Good morning, the crew. Any military intervention in Nigerian crisis will be a big blunder considering the myriad of problems facing Nigeria." Barrister Dan Okuda from Igondo. I see Yinka Bulutu, a regular customer. Mr. C, I disagree with you with your view on Niger. How does Niger affect us? Please. Have you seen the border lines we share with Niger? What happens when there is unrest in Niger? Military intervention should be the last option, but we can sanction them. If push comes to shove, we respond militarily. Is it until we come when all countries are taken over by soldiers? Did you hear what happened in Sierra Leone recently, Mr. C? Or were you not aware of the NLC political wing asking the same in Nigeria? If you want to change the government, please use the ballot and also understand there is a proxy game at play here. And the messages keep piling. Okay, Mr. C.
Okay, so let me
quickly respond to that one.
Because it appears particularly Abbas is unable to comprehend what I'm saying. And I'm going to say it again clearly, so I hope this time he gets it. Now, I started off by saying Niger shares the border of 6 Nigerian states. However, we cannot afford to get sucked into a war with Niger. Remember, Burkina Faso and Mali have also stated clearly any invasion or attack on Niger, they will consider it as an attack on them. Now, we have a lot of problems here. Is it not instructive that Ghana, that is a major member of ECOWAS, has been quiet about this incident? What I'm saying is this: we cannot cry more than the bereaved. We cannot be more affected than the Nigerian people.
Okay.
If the Nigerian people have accepted an unlawful act and are happy with it, why is that our concern?
Okay, point noted. Let's get on to our next paper this morning, and I go to Gbugbemi for this one. Quickly, Gbugbemi. The UK launches climate change program targeting over 4 million Nigerians. That's from the Daily Trust newspaper.
Okay, so the UK government just launched a program called PropCom Plus, which is an 8-year international climate finance program aimed at supporting climate resilient and sustainable agriculture and forestry that benefits people, climate, and nature. This is like a build-up on a previous program called PropCon, which they had done previously and had closed, I think, early last year or so. Basically, the program is set out to provide funding for farmers and foresters in selected states within the country to enable them to be able to practice climate-friendly farming, and sustain the environment. So one would wonder, why would the UK be committing so much money to a region outside of the UK? Well, the truth is that we're a global village, and whatever happens in one region of the country will definitely affect another region. For many people who are probably aware of global warming, in fact, I heard it's no more global warming, it's global heating or something like that. As the state of the climate becomes worse all over the country, all over the world, it's not enough for us to say, oh, okay, this is what we are doing in our own country to protect the environment. It's important that we must also look out to other nations as well, especially the Sahara region and sub-Saharan Africa, which, if we think about it in terms of the what's that word now? In terms of the effects of climate change, we haven't, I dare say, we haven't felt it as much, quote unquote, but we're also at a potential.
We're seeing floods already. We're seeing the temperatures going on the rise. So,
Exactly.
I mean, if you say we're not feeling it yet, I mean.
Yeah. So, no, what I meant to say rather was that we're not impacting on the environment as much as the developed region. So, which is one of the reasons why it's important to be able to ensure that our own climate environment is protected, quote unquote.
We have basic issue of survival like bread, butter first. So you're talking of the environment. To a man who has not eaten, you think he would want to think about the environment first.
So that's part of the reasons why the UK has committed these resources,
Yes.
because this will address a lot of all those issues. the average farmer is probably not even thinking about the climate because they don't even know what's happening. But then when someone comes with funding and says, rather than doing X practice which is harmful to the soil,
Yeah.
and crops, why don't you do this, and we're paying you to do this, or we're supporting you to do this, or we're providing these resources to enable you to be able to practice sustainable farming.
Okay. Let's go to Mr. C for this next story. It's a very sad one for which one of our listeners sent in a message as a condolence. But let's go to the Vanguard newspaper. Death of doctor. Lagos NMA declares 5-day statewide mourning in respect, as a mark of respect for the passing. It could have been averted. Mr. C, walk us through that.
Okay, Master, thank you. Yes, indeed, this is a very, very sad story, and our thoughts go out to the family and loved ones of the late Dr. Diaz of Wairi. Now, what happened? So, the stories keep on saying it's part of the general hospital, but the general hospital is not that high up. So there's the quarters, the story building where house officers are quartered. Now that is the building where the incident happened. Now from the various stories, it is clear that the elevator in question had been faulty for quite a long time.
It's about 3 years now from what I gathered.
And that despite petitions for the thing to be fixed properly, clearly or seemingly it wasn't fixed properly, because there really is no explanation why an elevator will fall from the 10th floor to the ground floor, because elevators have built-in fail safes so that even if power goes or the emergency brakes will kick in and it will stop you. If it doesn't stop you at the next floor, it will stop you in between floors so that you can be rescued. Now what makes it even sadder is between 40 minutes and an hour after the event, she had not been extricated from that and from the shaft. And there were cries. Witnesses said she kept on crying. She didn't want to die. And there was an issue with getting blood to her. Apparently, there was no available blood ready for her. And by the time she was rushed to the hospital, it appears she had given up the ghost. So this is a very avoidable incident, and it's the third tragic incident to happen. In Lagos, we had a helicopter crashing at Obakran.
It's a training aircraft, not even an helicopter.
Okay, training aircraft.
Those small.
Crashing onto a busy road. Now we have to, I think there's another one I'm trying to remember, but it's not coming down. So an investigation has to be carried out, and the after effect of this is the Nigerian Medical Association, Lagos State Chapter, has asked its members in the 3 hospitals on the island to stop work immediately, whilst in the other places for the next 5 days, they reduce the services and only attend to emergency patients.
Okay, we'll take a break. Let's quickly get on to the messages. It's freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. So let's get Joseph in Goke from UK. Goke responds saying, from the UK, so Nnamdi Kanu now realizes he's a British citizen, but is causing chaos in the southeast of Nigeria. Let him remain in Nigeria to fight for Biafra, so says Goke from the UK. I see Joseph Menyi says, good morning, freshly pressed, the President ZB. Okay, he says, Mr. C and Gbugbemi, we have no business in Niger Republic. Our problems are much more than the coup in that country. If their citizens are happy with the new military government, why do we want to take that paracetamol for someone else's headache? Moreover, no ECOWAS would be committing resources, mean manpower and logistics, but depending on Big Brother Nigeria, who claims to be broke. That's from Joseph Meye from Silver Estate in Lagos. I see this one in here. It says, Rexy, Mr. C has little understanding of international relations. It seems why is Nigeria concerned about stability in Niger? What a question. Cynicism is not an argument. Olatunde Akinwumi, wrong narrative from the otherwise. Okay, be gentle, be soft on Mr. C this morning, please. It's Thursday, the weekend is just nearby. Doing nothing about Niger crisis is not an option. Short of boots on the ground, every other option should be should be considered on the table. And no, the Ukrainians did not accept the Crimean takeover. A simmering war had been brewing below the radar since 2014 after the incident, just without the support they needed from the West until now. And lastly, we have no proof that the coup is popular. Even if popular, that is not the way to power. Let us all be guided. Olatunde Akinwumi from Oregun. Linda from Yaba comes on back in this Niger issue. Not what point do we draw At what point do we draw the line between an arbitrary government and that approved by the citizens of the government? Who will we be going to fight for in Niger? The citizens who approve the military or the former president? They are happy to read of Linda. Quickly, we asked for the messages and they came in their droves. So let's get this one. Dada says from Ogba, good morning, presenter. Nigeria nation is a country where corruption is normal. There is conspiracy of silence on everything corruption in the nation. Do you see the gate pulled down at the National Assembly yesterday? Which of the senators has such a bad gate? If you ask them the cost now, they would be shocked. Well, they have created chop chop for themselves. Maybe the man who fabricated it is one of the people that pulled down the gate. Look, Mr. C, we have to get on to the next message. A whole lot of messages have come in for us. But let's go to Gbugbemi quickly as we wrap up the show. Gbugbemi, this story would be yours as we close the show this morning. This one here, the message is still, okay, 1.6 million children out of school in the northeast of Nigeria, according to the Daily Trust.
Okay, so this story refers specifically to Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa. Borno and Yobe, we know, have been particularly hit because of the effects of insurgency. And at a point, a lot of schools were closed around all those places because people were displaced. Many of them are still in IDPs as of now. This is, it's not even just a Northeast problem, it's a Nigerian problem, because as of, was it early this year or late last year, it was declared that we have over 20 million children out of school. And it was also declared that we have the highest rate of children out of school in the world. So this is really a Nigerian problem, and it's important that governments, that state, federal, local government, find ways of addressing these issues. Obviously, they can't do it by themselves, so some sorts of partnerships, must be entered into with as many organizations as possible, civil society, NGOs, foreign donors, if possible, even the local citizenry as well.
Okay, thanks so much, Gbugbemi. That's about all we can take from the papers this morning, but let's quickly race down to the messages as they keep pouring in this morning. You asked for it and now you got it. Austin comes back again from satellite. Nigerian government are yet to tell us, the citizens, why they have so much interest in Niger. Maybe Niger is now part of Nigeria. Is that why former President Buhari said he will go to Niger and leave if anyone troubles him? Well, it goes on and on. Olajide from Ibadan, I see your message also. Thank you so much. I see Yinka Bolu, I see Dakpo Lawal, Williams, Dr. I see Tayo, I see Pastor Dakpo, Henry Emmanuel C. I see, let's see, a whole lot. Nedu, I see your message. Obi from Ago. Thank you all very much for the messages you sent into the show this morning. That's the size of Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1 FM. Gbugbemi, thank you so much.